Welcome to The Explainer. You know, there are some passages in the Bible that spark endless debate, and today we're jumping right into one of them. We're going to unpack a perspective on Colossians chapter 2 that might just change the way you see everything. So let me ask you, what was actually nailed to the cross? For a long time, the common answer has been God's law. You know, the idea that things like the Sabbath and the holy days, well, they're done away with. But what if that's not what the text is saying at all? What if something else entirely got nailed up there? And this is the verse right here, Colossians 2:16 and 17, that gets brought up all the time. On the surface, it seems pretty clear, right? Let no one judge you. But here's the thing. To really get what Paul is saying, you can't just look at this verse in isolation. We've got to check out its companion letter, which really sets the whole stage. All right, first stop, Ephesians. This letter is like the decoder ring for what's happening in Colossians. It helps us pinpoint the real problem, the root of all the division Paul was writing about. So Paul talks about Jesus breaking down this middle wall of partition, and he says he annulled, basically made void, the law of the commandments in dogmas. Now that word dogmas is absolutely critical. What in the world is he talking about? Is this God's law, the Ten Commandments? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The Greek word here is dogmasin, and if you trace it through the whole Bible, you find something amazing. It is never used to talk about God's divine law. Not once. It always refers to human stuff. Decrees, decisions, opinions. Man-made rules. So, that hostility Paul was talking about, it wasn't coming from God's written law, the Torah. I mean, the Torah commands people to love the stranger. No, the hostility came from something else, the oral Torah. These were layers and layers of man-made traditions that basically built a fence around the law, keeping non-Jews out and creating all this friction. And get this, it wasn't just a metaphor. Archaeologists have actually dug up a literal piece of this wall. It's a stone tablet from the temple, and the inscription in Greek is a chilling warning to any non-Jews. Cross this line and you've got only yourself to blame for your own death. Talk about a physical symbol of that man-made hostility. And this isn't some brand new idea. Over a century ago, a theologian named A.T. Jones looked at this and came to the same conclusion. He said it was this man-made ceremonial law, a law born out of human hostility that was abolished in Christ's flesh. It wasn't God's law, it was the wall of enmity that men built. Okay, so with all that context from Ephesians in our back pocket, let's head back to the main event, Colossians. Now we can see what Paul is really getting at when he talks about what was nailed to the cross. It's about to get crystal clear. So let's ask again, what was this bond which was hostile to us that Jesus wiped clean? If it wasn't God's law, what was it? Well, Paul doesn't leave us guessing. He tells us right before the famous part. It was the bond of dogmas. There's that word again. It's the very same man-made rules and human traditions that Paul had just finished warning them about. The ones he said were according to the tradition of men and had nothing to do with Christ. And this leads to a really profound idea. Think about it. Jesus didn't just get rid of the bond of human rules. In a sense, he became the bond. He took all of humanity's prideful, hostile, man-made decrees onto himself, and he nailed them to the cross in his own body. Wow. Okay, so now that we've established it was the man-made dogmas that were nailed to the cross, not God's law, let's go back to that famous verse about shadows. Suddenly, it's going to look completely different. Now, this is how we usually read it, right? Let no one judge you in eating, drinking, a holy day, new moon, or Sabbath. We just kind of lump all five of those things together and say, see, they're all just a shadow that's passed away. But the original Greek grammar tells a different story. It suggests a totally different structure. The main thing being judged here is the eating and drinking. The holy day, new moon, and Sabbath, they aren't the thing being judged. They are the setting where the judgment about eating and drinking is taking place. And the key to unlocking this is a little Greek phrase, en meri. It literally means in part of, or in participation of. So the eating and drinking are happening in part of the celebration of the holy days. See how that separates the act of feasting from the day itself? They're not the same thing. So here's the big reveal, the big takeaway from the grammar. The shadow, the skia, isn't the holy day. It's the festive eating and drinking on the holy day. And what is that a shadow of? What's the real substance, the soma? It's the body of the Messiah, our true spiritual food and drink. This quote just captures it so beautifully. The cross of Calvary is stamped on every loaf. It means every time we eat, every meal can be a tiny sacrament, a shadow pointing us back to the ultimate substance we live by, Jesus. So the celebration isn't abolished, not at all. It's infused with its ultimate meaning.
And if you think that's incredible, hold on. This all culminates in a connection that is just mind-blowing. It links the nails of the cross to the very name of God, hidden in plain sight in the ancient Hebrew.
So you know God's covenant name, right? We often say it as Yahweh or Jehovah. Well, if you look at how it was written in the most ancient Hebrew pictographs, it tells a story, a message that's been right there all along. Okay, so Hebrew reads from right to left. The letters are Jod, He, Vav, He. Jod is a picture of a hand. He means behold or look. And Vav is a nail. So what does God's name literally say in these ancient pictures? Behold the hand, behold the nail. It's just incredible.
So let's bring it all home. Colossians 2 isn't a chapter that abolishes God's calendar. It's a declaration of freedom. Paul was telling the Colossians, go ahead and celebrate. Don't let these people with their man-made, restrictive, don't touch, don't taste rules judge you for it.
This completely flips the script on this passage, doesn't it? It's not about freedom from celebration. It's about freedom in celebration. And that leaves us with a really big question to chew on. If this passage is actually defending joyful celebration, what does that mean for us and for our traditions today?